So, hello, friends. On behalf of Hindustan Times and Mint, it gives me immense pleasure in welcoming you all to the inaugural virtual edition of HT NxT, a thought leadership platform for the newsmakers of today. This is the first of its kind platform that is focusing on pertinent issues and companies that offer innovative solutions for a better tomorrow across sports, entertainment, business, and entrepreneurship. The summit is spread over 3 weeks and is being hosted live virtually across all HT digital channels. Each week, each week will focus on a particular genre that is pertinent to all you young minds that are looking out for inspiration. The theme for this inaugural edition is Leading the Change, which explains why I have with me two entrepreneurs who are doing precisely this and have made a name for themselves in the field of AI. Ashwini Asokan, CEO and founder of Matchfeed Den, and Geeta Manjunath, founder and CEO of Niramai Health Analytics. Match210 is a computer vision and AI startup founded by a designer neuroscientist duo in 2013. In this particular case, Ashwini and her husband, Anand Chandrasekhar. Niramai, founded in 2016, has developed a software based medical device to detect breast cancer at a much earlier stage than traditional methods or self examination. How did they do this? What were the challenges they surmounted and still face? How do they view entrepreneurship and the work life balance? And what's their advice to entrepreneurs who are setting out on this challenging journey? These are some of the questions we hope to cover in the next 30 minutes or so. So I'd like to extend a very hearty welcome to our two guests, Ashwini and Geeta.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Hi.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for being on the show. Ashwini, let me start with you. So, Ashwini is basically the CEO and founder, as I said, and she returned to India from Silicon Valley after more than a decade to bootstrap this startup, which she founded with her husband. He's a neuroscientist, she's a product designer and cultural researcher, and she explores how AI can be brought out of the science and tech labs of the world. As Ashwini loves to put it, the idea is to make everyone not only a digital native, but an AI native. Uh, so, Ashwini, you grew up in a family of professors and computer scientists, if I'm not mistaken, but yet you chose dance initially. What made you change your mind and become an entrepreneur?
Well, that's a fairly long journey and a fairly long history there. I was definitely the only one in my family that was artistically bent when compared to everybody else that was clearly into academics. I was clearly academically inclined from my brother is a professor, my sister-in-law is a postdoctoral researcher. My husband is a PhD and postdoc in neuroscience across the board. And for me, I think the arts always held interest in just about anything else growing up. And, I had a family and parents who definitely encouraged that over, anything else that was peer pressure driven. Interestingly, though, I got interested in the field of design and product design after I finished my undergrad here in India. And that kind of took me to the US, and it opened up I think my path into the world that got me here. Graduating with a degree in product and design ended up taking me to Intel, which was again a fairly not so conservative choice for a person graduating with a degree in design or product. But it really, I think I've always situated myself at the intersection of art, science, tech, cultural aspects of that, society, people, and it's always just about every time in my career. If I look back, I would say it's always been at the intersection of these, and somewhere along the line, I think I just knew that I was always going to start up, and specifically in the field of AI, just because my career at Intel, in particular, really helped shape my, who I was, where I wanted to head in life. Surrounded by some very, very strong role models that kind of opened up the possibilities for where the future could be, what kind of a life we could all be living, or where the world and the industry is really headed. And that really motivated me to kind of begin my journey. And I'd been thinking about where we would start for a while, and it just felt like the right 10 years in with all that experience felt like a great time for me to kind of start up and do what I eventually wanted to. But so kind of a roundabout way of getting here. But I think every one of those experiences broadly shaped how this company ended up getting built to begin with. So I'd say everything from my dance to my design degree to my product and life at Intel pretty much shaped this journey, and we're all kind of stepping stones to getting here.
Before I get on to Geeta, do you still dance?
No, I don't.
I don't
I
think you
don't.
get time.
I don't. I just, between a startup that's growing and a family and young children, it's just the arts have definitely taken a back seat in my life for the last 10 years. But, I never say no.
Okay, hope to dance someday. Geeta, in your particular case, you were a very successful professional. I mean, you were with Xerox. I think we met at G, if I'm not mistaken, earlier
HP
also.
Labs.
So yes, I do remember that. And from a very successful professional with a very well-paying, secure job, you chose entrepreneurship suddenly. So what made you the shift? Most people sort of, think twice before doing that.
Yeah, no, I always call myself as an accidental entrepreneur, because, yeah, of course, I was having a lot of fun and enjoying my work at, Hewlett Packard, 17 years, and Xerox Research. I was heading the AI research for India, and working with very, very smart researchers here, as well as, of course, Xerox Park, Xerox France, and so on, right? So it was like pretty in the Palo Alto and France. So it was pretty good. We were actually innovating for the future and so on. Like unlike most PhDs, I've always enjoyed making an innovation work on the ground, right? As opposed to publishing and publishing and publishing for some reason. Of course, I don't mind publishing, but this is what I enjoy more. So, be it at Hewlett Packard or Xerox, always trying to sort of propose new ideas and trying to take it till the pilot stage. But what happens is that there's a separate division for business group, and you need to sort of convince them, and they just sort of, it's almost like throwing it over the fence, and like people who catch, it's not there. So, there's a lot of gaps. Still, managed to make a difference to some at least 5-6 products with some newer product additional products which could be sold with them. Having said that, while at Xerox Research, I was actually interacting with multiple hospitals, customer care, professionals, of course, including healthcare and customer care. We had like education as a vertical, and smart cities transportation. So this, while all of this was happening, one of my cousin sisters got detected with breast cancer. She was in early 40s, and she was very close to me, and I lost her within 2 years. And I was just thinking, like, we're trying to solve so many problems in the world today, like, mostly for Europe and US. And here is a big problem that is affecting not just Bharti, my cousin, but so many women, right? 96,000 women died last year because of breast cancer. And this is something that's very curable. And all of this happened because of late detection. So this sort of, I got into this mood of, what am I doing here aspect. And I sort of discussed with some of my colleagues and, with the management support and so on. Obviously, I had this exploratory budget. So I basically started a small project within my previous organization itself to start exploring this space, because anyway, we were into AI research and so exploring a small idea. And about a year or a half, and it was too much to manage, like, this on the weekend and 25 other projects to manage. So I decided to quit and start this with 2-3 of my team members. So it's been now 4.5 years since we actually quit and did that. And I just jumped off, didn't know anything about, startup financing or, all of it. Of course, I've built a lot of products. And so the product side was, it was okay, comfortable, but more on the customer sales, finance, it's been a beautiful learning experience over the last 4.5 years.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Ashwini, your journey has been something similar where you have been talking a lot about making people AI natives. I love that thing because we have been talking about digital natives. Now you're talking about making people AI natives. We're talking about AI for the masses, and you have continuously insisted on that particular thing. And at the same time, the name of your company is matched to it. Then it's quite cheeky. It's quite very different. So could you just tell us how did you think about that name and how does it gel with the overall
Oh
work of your?
God, it doesn't. I mean, I get asked this question just about every single place I go to, and it was a very like whimsical, at the same time on a whim kind of a name that we'd come up with. Our first place that we had started the company was a basement in the middle of Chennai, which was, at the end of a street. It literally was a den where we had the office, and it was a tiny little space. And so the name almost became, it just fit more than anything else. As for, the view of creating a world filled with AI natives, I think, MSD has always been known to be at the cutting edge, at the bleeding edge of AI. And we find ourselves always ahead of the curve in terms of just the adoption curve. We believe that it's really important to innovate far ahead of the time when someone's actually going to be able to use it, but also slowly push towards making all of that productionable, deployed on scale in a way that everybody can use it. And the whole idea behind creating kind of a generation of AI natives is to say that everybody needs to be a part of this, right? AI is going to be highly polarizing in the coming years, and people are either going to be a part of it or they're not. And for us, we're in the business of creating tools, business tools, developer tools, solutions that allow, all kinds of people, from stylists to teachers to, all kinds of retailers to, increasingly now we're in education and many other verticals as well. All of them actually using the AI to create and not just be passive consumers of, and being stuck in a TikTok or an Instagram world means you're kind of constantly at the receiving end of that. You're not necessarily participating in creating or shaping the AI itself. And we believe that, we need to, our entire company, the products we build, the culture of the company itself is very much about making sure that the people out there that are engaging with our AI and they're kitted out, they feel empowered enough to be able to have all the tools at their disposal to kind of create, the next version of their industries, regardless of which industry they're in. And so that's kind of, the motto and the what drives the company really.
But today, when I look at both of you are established 4 5 years more than yours is 2013, Geeta's company is 2016, and you're all fairly established in this thing. You'll have raised funding. You'll have managed to get it. But what are the kind of challenges that you'll faced? Obviously, everything wasn't smooth sailing. I mean, I know both of you all have had your fair set of challenges. So from like since we have these, the HT Next is all about young entrepreneurs. When you look at them and you want to sort of tell them what kind of challenges you faced as an what will serve as an inspiration for them, how would you list them? Either one of you can take this, or both
Sure.
should. Yeah.
So, see, I think first of all, once you actually decide to start up, um, your mind is completely on this is the product I want to do, or this is the segment you want to attack, and then sort of you're focused on what is that product that you want to bring, right? Making that happen, the prototype. That's how we all started. Like we want to build this, and we decided we will not use existing methodologies for screening because they don't work on younger women. They don't work at all. In fact, nowadays we realize more and more of that. And then so we were using this sort of thermal imaging, which nobody else has ever tried before, and whether it'll work at all, right? So that was the initial apprehension, and then trying to, of course, we had some lab level prototypes working, but that doesn't mean. So trying to get somebody to partner with you, and it, I mean, coming from HPs, rocks, and all that, suddenly you see that that brand which you were carrying on your back, right? It just disappears, and you're just Geeta, right? You're just on the. And when you talk to them, right? It's not about it's not about what brand you carry, but it's really about like yourself and how you do this. So trying to get doctors who are willing to stick out their necks to basically, start piloting, because we are talking about cancer, right? It is a life and death kind of a decision on AI is automatically doing, which is obviously it requires complete support and trust, not just in the users who are taking it, but also the doctors who are recommending this test or providing it in their hospitals. So that was the first thing to actually get the trust of the doctors. First, getting them to partner with us to actually prove the efficacy, because obviously healthcare devices or medical devices in general cannot go to market without a formal clinical study being performed, formal regulatory clearances being performed. So health tech industry has a different flavor altogether. We know that there is a long waiting time.
Geeta, my questions are more, sort of specific from the point of view your personal challenges. Were there times where
Sure.
you actually felt, this is getting too much for me? I should go back to my job, perhaps. There I had a very large, huge support system. I had a brand to build. Because that's what people sometimes feel that, okay, today you're successful. Today, I know when you stand up on the podium and talk about machine learning, both of you, it's like amazing to listen to you all. But there are times when I'm sure I want to understand that part, the fear
Sure,
of failure.
sure. Yeah, sure. So one is that the brand going away and you're just an individual, right? I mean, you're talking to a person, and that does have a flavor of, you're just standing on your own. I mean, it does have a flavor of making your own path, right? It requires you to sort of really cut all the weeds and sort of really make the new path, especially because, like I was saying, right? It's a completely new tech. Nobody has, if you've said, if you've seen somebody else do it, they can say, oh, it's similar to that, and they are using, so why don't you use this test? But it's not like that. This is the first time ever in the world somebody is trying to use thermal imaging and AI, right? So that actually brought I had to sort of bring in more confidence in myself, right? Though I've led large teams and so on, this is a different kind of confidence. That is one. A lot of learning and unlearning is needed, especially if you're coming from a corporate kind of a background. You're so used to certain ways of doing things, certain processes, and so on. So that unlearning of that is very, very important. And I had to kind of learn about some of the basics of finance and how does this sort of equity structure works. Obviously, we raised funds within 3 months, and so how to pitch and what kind of work. So we used to pitch to one investor and take that feedback, go back home, sort of rework, and then improve our pitch and so on. So this was also a continuous learning process, I would say. So basically, as an entrepreneur out on the road, you will become a salesperson, you will become a finance person, you will even sometimes the chaprasi, everything all in one. So I mean, it's I would just say, just we need to have the confidence that we can do it, and then keep the vision in front and then go towards it. Hurdles keep coming one after the other, and you just sort of solve day to day, daily, and then move on. So that's sort of basically the attitude that is required, persuasiveness, optimism, and confidence to attack. And then one of the other things is also about, when you're trying to do sales and obvious, all the ego goes away, right? And this, like, you're almost asking people to help you. And initially it's it's very, very difficult, because again, I was in a good role where people were looking for my approvals, and now I'm actually sort of going in front of every doctor. It's very hard to even get an appointment, and literally it really humbles you, humbles you a lot. And anyway, so this is
Yeah, Ashwini, I think, what about your experience?
Yeah, pretty much everything she said, right? I don't think, I think almost all of what she said is true. I think change is the only constant in this environment. There's no preparing you for this. You just have to believe that you can get to where you want. And the interesting thing is also, I mean, the point about change that I do want to kind of belabor a little bit is that every time you hit a milestone, you actually have to almost reinvent yourself again for the next milestone, right? Being an early stage startup looks very different than being a growth stage startup. And being a scale stage startup looks very different than a startup that's broadly established and is really all about maybe scaling globally or in some other way, right? So every stage of scale actually looks very different. And I think it comes with its own challenges, right? For us, in the beginning, for me, it was all about, building the right team and bringing the right kind of people who would be very, very comfortable and happy with uh, going where no one has gone, but also not necessarily having a path that's already been treaded on. So when you're making new paths, when you're going on new journeys, it's not like there is prior art. It's not like there's history. It's not like there's someone there who's created that category for you. And it requires a lot of suspension of disbelief, and it's important to put together a team that also suspends disbelief with you and believes that they can kind of go on that path in the early days. As you start to scale, it's less about that. As you start to scale and you've had the kind of product market fit and you've kind of figured it out, for us it was really about you know figuring out who will kind of help scale the company to the next level, right? And again, so I feel like so much of this journey is about change. It's about suspension of disbelief. It's about learning to handle people, kind of like what Geeta pointed out. And I think um, it can get hard, right? When you're wearing every hat at all points of time. I keep saying this, that, people say all of these things about raising children, about saying, oh, you'll never know what it's like to be a parent. There's no preparing you for it. I, I keep saying this, but as a mother of two children, I can tell you, like, parenting is a lot easier than building a company.
Yeah, but
I agree.
I think both of you all have raised a very pertinent question. So, which brings me to the kind of the third part of the scene from the challenges space. I mean, I know, especially Ashwini doesn't like this question, but I still have to
Oh
ask,
God, don't
because
go
if you,
there.
I, yeah, if you notice, I did not call you all women entrepreneurs. I refrained from doing that at the outset. I said these are entrepreneurs because I wouldn't like in any way to belittle the achievements of you. But having said this is a male-dominated society, so is it that the challenges are more for entrepreneurs who happen to be women, or is it that because from our side we don't see it as a level playing ground? So that's something that
Well,
I
it's
would like
not. I
to.
mean, that's not debatable at all, which is why I think, to me, I'd rather not have this particular conversation everywhere I go, largely because, I mean, it is not a level playing field. Less than 1% of women raised funding in the last year. That was down from
Yes.
2.2 the year before. And I think it's definitely not a level playing field, and it looks very different. But at the same time, I think so much has changed, right? In the last, as someone who's been doing this for more than 5 years, I can tell you the market looks so different today than it ever did, 5 years ago. I mean, I'm like, as an angel investor today, I come across so many women who are starting up, right? So I definitely do think, no, the level playing field is not the same. The challenges are incredibly multifold higher than it is otherwise. And at the same time, I'd say things are changing so fast in front of us, whether it's access to funding, whether it's finding more women who are starting up, whether it's finding more women at all levels of a startup organization. I think things are changing really, really fast.
Geeta, your quick thoughts on this
Yeah,
topic,
that's not
basically.
my favorite topic as well. But while I know I do agree with what Ashwini mentioned, in general, what I tell to women entrepreneurs or aspiring women entrepreneurs is to sort of forget the fact she's a woman or a female, right? Just you are an entrepreneur, right? And if you start thinking about sort of what's different, and it actually becomes more of a hurdle, like in your mind, to and then it makes it difficult for you to fight the thing, right? Just like when you're building a startup, you have several challenges, you have additional challenges, and you figure out, you'll find team members, you'll find family members who are helping you out of it. So that's how sort of I generally think about it. But the other aspect, if you want to talk about females who want to start up, is generally this lack of confidence in themselves that they can do it, right? I think it's important for people not to discourage, because I think several studies have shown the level of confidence and self-belief is slightly lower in women compared to men, particularly in India and so on. So it's important to have a very positive environment, and supportive environment in that sense, at least to start with, I would say, right? I'm happy that my family, my husband is supportive. Of course, he doesn't come anywhere near the startup, but it's important to sort of make you feel less guilty as it is. You have kids, you have family, all of that, but you anyway are feeling guilty though others are not telling you. So now, though, this is another bigger kid for me to go after, and I'm now I don't no more feel guilty. That is one of the things that I've come out of. It's hard, yeah, but it's fun.
Another question. Lovely. I mean, and I think both of you put together when you all talk about AI, machine learning, deep learning, computer vision, robotics, etc. I think it's what most men together can't speak about these topics. So, I mean, hats off to you all. But having said that, there's another whole question when startups are concerned. What about work-life balance? Now, I know that Ashwini has said this very often that my life is my work, and but I would like there are many young budding entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs watching the show who are young, just setting out. So, uh, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's really hard to see it any other way. I mean, and the reason for that is if you are, in your 20s and starting up, I mean, that's broadly what most of these 20-year-olds that I see pretty much do. You work, and that's kind of broadly what you do. I think as if you're a much older founder like I am, and you have children, and you have family, and you have, a lot of other obligations, it's really important for you to start seeing, I think, everything is the same thing. And the reason for that is it allows me to kind of be able to be there for everyone. I do parcel my time. I'm very, very organized when it comes to my time, my day. I have daily calendars, quarterly calendars, weekly calendars. I have annual to-do lists. So I think it just means you just end up being extremely organized with your life. And you make sure that you do your best, in terms of not compromising on. And then the problem with work-life balance, the way it's envisioned, is that it's always, it's never going to be even, right? There will be weeks when it's going to be crazy at work. There'll be weeks when your home is taking a whole lot of attention. There'll be weeks when your kids are sick, and there'll be weeks when something else is going on, and you have to travel to basically go out there and be on the road for weeks at a stretch. So I think this whole idea, I think it's important to be very conscious about the choices you make, and be very, very clear and organized in terms of what your week is going to look like, what your quarter is going to look like, what your goals are, and then basically plan your life around that broadly, right? My home goal is no different than my work goal. My kid's doctor visit is no less important than a customer call that I've got to attend, or an investor call that I got to attend. So I don't really make a distinction between these. Instead, I see these as different types of goals that I have, and just find a way to design my life around it.
Wonderful. And what about you, Geeta? You think any differently? You feel that probably you have a different
Yeah,
approach to the
so while I
work-life
agree
balance?
with most of the things that Ashwini said, I am not organized. Actually, I'm a very, very impromptu kind of a person. So I want everything differently done, and so on and so forth. So I don't like to repeat the same types and so on. Having said that, of course, I look at everything like you said, both the work and the life activities as tasks that need to be completed on particular, timeline that is there. So that much, right? Not necessarily fitting all of it. The way I fit things in is very dynamic, though. What I do when, and that sort of is very dynamic. I wake till 2:30 a.m., 3 a.m., and I sleep there and then get up at 6 o'clock. So all of that may happen, generally happens. But I think when you talk about work and life, what is life? Doing what you like is your life, right? And you like the work that you're doing, you like your vision, you like the work in the startup, if you want to call it that way, so much that you don't mind doing it 24/7. I mean, you enjoy doing it 24/7, right? And that's, I'm sure, is for every founder, right? And so you can say life is work, but it's really about, my life is Of course, I have a family and I love my daughter, son, husband, and that is also part of it. And many times my husband calls me Niramai at home. Right? It's become so much. It's become an identity of my own identity, right? So that gelling is definitely there. Gelling is definitely there, and taken so many calls in the kitchen, and I have had Outlook calendar invites for my daughter's visit to the doctor. So I mean and then if I have a event in the family, it just, my husband knows that he has to send a Google calendar, otherwise I'll forget. So I mean, this is, I mean, of course, otherwise I put it, but I know that I marked it out there. So yes, it's important to put important activities of family and general house activities, along with the startup activities. So that is there. So just like you play so many roles, you play this role as well. So that's
But I think with COVID around, I think it's good to be called Niramai because it means in Sanskrit it means free from illness, right?
yes, yes, it means
So it's
being
good to
without
be.
diseases.
Uh, Before we wrap up the session, I think one final question to both of you is since we have a lot of budding entrepreneurs and young people on this watching this show, what would be your advice if these were people to set up the new startups with the kind of crazy valuations that they're seeing at this point in time? Everybody does get excited, but what would your y'all have been there, done that? What are the kind of advice that you all will give? Let's start with Ashwini.
I think it's a great time to start up. So that's probably what my advice is. If you think you have an idea, if you think you want to go out there and do something and build a company bottoms up, there has never been a time in history that's been as good, especially in India. So I think it's a great time to do that. The only thing I think it's worth asking is, are you ready for the challenge? Right? It's like nothing you've ever seen before, and it's likely nothing like you're ever going to see in the future. And so you just have to be willing to stick it out all the way to the end. And I think it requires a very particular kind of grit and a very particular kind of persistence to kind of keep on the game. It's easy to stay there on your high days. It's what you do on your low days that pretty much defines who you are. So
Yeah, absolutely. Geeta?
Yeah, I think it is definitely a good time to start. But I would say like any time is good time to start if you actually firmly believe in a particular problem, right? That you usually what happens, it does start with a more philanthropic sort of mindset that I want to change the world in this space and the world is not okay here, and hence I have a way of fixing it. I think you keep up that. I know we talk about a lot of money on the table and finances and somebody becoming a billionaire, but honestly, if you're thinking only about that, I'm not sure whether startup in the only way of making money, right? It's really more about solving a problem than making money. It's because I do hear this sort of false notions, right? Maybe it's true, maybe it will become true, but we all know that more than 90% of the startups actually fail. So it's really not about failure, success, money after many years. It's really about enjoying every day, solving a problem that you feel so deeply about, and then sitting in the driving seat and really like figure out you are the future of the company, right? You are actually, sorry, for framing the future of the company. So sometimes I feel I'm in a driving seat and a like full road without any traffic, and you can accelerate as much as you like and as you can. Of course, there are humps and there are a lot wonderful team members who are helping you move forward. So that is what it is, an adventure, and it will give you a lot of social satisfaction of solving a social change in some sense, creating a social change. And so um, if you want to solve a problem, go for it. Don't worry, you'll learn on the go, and be courageous, and you can move. I think you should just take it up. That's all I can say.
So these have been very inspiring words. So friends, those of you who came to this show thinking that unicorns are all about, those $1 billion plus valuations without any sacrifice or hard work being put in. I think Ashwini and Geeta have given us enough insight into the lives of entrepreneurs, very successful entrepreneurs who started out with their own fears and challenges, and today have extremely established kind of works and are actually setting out to make this world a better place with the use of artificial intelligence and other kind of technologies. Ashwini and Geeta, it was a real pleasure having you on the show. Wishing you both all the best in your respective startups, and we hope to see a lot more of both of you in the near future. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for
Thank you.
having
Enjoyed
us.
speaking.
Thank you.